Nicole, welcome back to the channel. So today's video is for the newest release from Knees Lacquer. I have their new Elden Ring Part 2. Last month we had an Elden Ring Part 1 collection. I'll have my blog post linked down in the description box if you want to see swatches of that release. The Elden Ring Part 2 collection goes on sale this coming Friday, July 19th at 7 p.m. on the Knees Lacquer website. Knees Lacquer does offer international shipping from their US headquarters, but they also do have a variety of international stockist pages for those of you outside of the US. So I have 9 polishes to share with you all today. Knees Lacquer is also offering overpours for the Daughter of the Moon Goddess, as well as the Hurricane Wars mystery bags. And on top of all of that, there's also going to be a 15% off sale off of the entire website, plus a free gift with purchase. I will get all into these sales details at the end of the video after my final thoughts. And I want to give a special thank you to Knees Lacquer for sponsoring today's video. All the products featured in today's video were sent to me by the brand to swatch as well as to share with you all. As always, in the description box, links to where you can pick these polishes up, links to the brand's social media pages, my social media pages, and of course, timestamps. Let's get into this video. First up, we have Crab is Bugs. Knees describes this one as a green leaning gray with a fine particle magnetic holographic shimmer. I was so surprised when I read the description of this one that it says it's a green leaning gray. I did not see a single droplet of green in this one. I would say it's more in the line of more of a taupey gray. Formula on this one was fantastic. It starts off fairly sheer, so you do need to build it up to gain some opacity going. Showing it currently magnetized in a few different ways. For my full-in swatches, I did show this magnetized using my ring style magnet. My full-in swatches do show this one in 3 coats. I'm showing it both magnetized and unmagnetized. The holographic in this polish is very, very fine in particle size, so you're not going to get like an intense, in-your-face, crazy holographic moment, but you also will still see rainbows. It's just not going to be the most intense holographic of your life. I feel like I want to circle back to this polish once fall comes around. I feel like this would be a fun base for some nail art. Nothing in here is going to dry down textured or be overly difficult to remove. You'll likely get some holographic pigment stuck to your fingers a little bit, but again, easy removal. And now we have Cuz, which Knees describes as a sheer grungy yellow with a strong pink to gold to green microflake shimmer. Cuz had a fantastic but fairly sheer formula. Knees is describing this formula as a gossamer formula, and this will not be able to reach full opacity without using a blurring base or an undie. All of my swatches show Cuz in 3 coats without any kind of blurring base. I don't like using them from swatches. I went into swatching this polish thinking I was going to really dislike it. It gives off very pastel yellow vibes, and I'm not a huge fan of pastel yellow vibes, but I ended up liking this one quite a bit. Even though this is a fairly pale yellow base, I didn't find that the shade of yellow made my nails look kind of sickly, which is generally my #1 complaint with sheer yellows. I just find sometimes they just make you look like you have some kind of sickness. In person, I was not able to see the green color shift at all in the shimmer. It had a very strong pink to gold shift to my eye. My full-in swatches here are showing Cuz in 3 coats plus glossy top coat. Again, I had very obvious visible nail line with this one. Nothing in here is going to dry down textured, and removal will be very easy but fairly messy. This next polish is one that I think a lot of you all will be very excited for. This one we have is Dancing Queens. Knees is describing this polish as a nude base with a larger particle silver magnetic shimmer. And no, your eyes are not deceiving you. This is very similar to the polished Menorah from the Heartless Hunter collection that ended up not being released. Dancing Queens had a wonderful formula. The base did not feel overly thick or thin, and I had 0 application issues. This polish also magnetized super easily for me. I magnetized it both with a bar style magnet as well as the velvet effect, and my full-in swatches show it with a ring magnet. I absolutely love this shade of brown. I feel like it's kind of in that reddish brown family of like a clay kind of color. It's a little bit too brown to be in the terracotta family. You know, every year in the fall when like a brand calls something a burnt orange and you're looking at it like, is it orange or is it brown? This is that color. The magnetic pigment in here isn't quite as smooth as it was in Skyfire, but I think it's not quite as sparkly as it was in Menorah either. This thankfully does not have the same pigment spec issues as Menorah. Full-in swatches show Dancing Queens in 3 coats plus glossy top coat, both magnetized and unmagnetized. This one does get a little bit more sheer once you magnetize it. Depending on what style of magnetizing you go for will depend on whether or not you see very obvious nail line or just like a hint of nail line. Removal will be very easy with this one, just slightly messy. Here is a side-by-side of Dancing Queens to Menorah. These are so incredibly close. The magnetic pigment used in Dancing Queens is different than the pigment used in Menorah, so again, it does not have the issue with pigment specs that Menorah did. did, hence why it was not released. For those of you who really wanted a bottle of Menorah, I think Dancing Queens will definitely scratch that itch for you. I also wanted to compare Dancing Queens to Skyfire, since Skyfire was released using pigment from Menorah. I feel like in this you can see just how smooth the pigment is in Skyfire, whereas in Dancing Queens it's a bit more sparkly. The brown bases on both these are also two very different shades of brown. And now we have Elden Beast, which the brand describes as a smoky plum lion cousin with a gold to green shifting shimmer and a ton of holographic flakes. If you are unfamiliar with the brand, Knees Lacquer released a polish a few years ago called a lion with a thorn in its paw, and ever since then Knees Lacquer has been releasing siblings and cousins to that polish. The sibling polishes have the same shimmer as the original, just the base colors are different. However, the cousin polishes uses a different type of shimmer, and if you've been around the channel for a minute, you know I always love a shimmer polish that also has holographic. Elden Beast had a fantastic formula. The base did not feel overly thick or thin, and again, zero application issues. My full-in swatches show Elden Beast in 2 coats. Looking at it in direct lighting, I feel like I probably should have gone in for a 3rd coat. Feel like it's looking a wee bit patchy in the sun here. So I'm going to call this one a 2 to 3 coater depending on personal preference. This is a fairly dark shade. It's not so dark that it's going to look black in low lighting, but I think it's going to look more like a very dark gray in low lighting. I found that I wasn't really seeing a ton of the plumminess until I brought this outside and saw it in natural lighting. I also want to note, I was not able to see a green color shift super strongly in the shimmer at all. I found what I was seeing in person was more of like a red to like a goldish orangey color. Nothing in here is going to dry down textured, but it will dry down a little bit flat, so you will want top coat for that. And removal is going to be fairly easy with this one, just very messy from all of the shimmer and the flakies. And now we have FFS, which the brand describes as a rusty reddish brown base with a glowy blue shimmer. FFS had a pretty good formula. It starts off a little bit sheer and a little bit uneven on that first coat, but I found it built up really nicely in 2 to 3 coats. If you wear this one in 2 coats, I think you'll see more of that like rusty reddish brown kind of base. If you build it up in 3 coats, a lot more of that blue shimmer will come out, so this will look a little bit purple toned on the nail. This one for sure will be a 2 or 3 coater depending on personal preference and your application style. My full-in swatches show this one in 3 coats plus a glossy top coat. I did have a couple of spots where I could see little dots in the pigment. The information I've received from the brand does state that some of the polishes in this collection could show some pigment specks because the bases are so sheer. I feel like if I hadn't specifically been looking to see if I could see any pigment specks, I probably would have missed the one that I got. Once I added another coat of polish onto the nail that I had a pigment speck on, it wasn't super noticeable. I don't think I would have noticed it if I wasn't actively looking for it. It did not dry down textured or anything like that either. I won't say which nail has the pigment speck because I'm kind of curious if people can see which nail it is without me actively telling you which nail it is. I will say it's easier to spot in the natural light shots, so let me know if you can tell which nail has the pigment speck. This is a fairly sheer polish, so again, you will have obvious visible nailing with it even after 3 coats. Removal will be fairly easy, just slightly messy due to the shimmer. And now we have Goddess of Rot, which Bees Knees describes as a wine colored base with a strong gold to green to blue shifting shimmer. Once again, we have a fantastic formula. It starts off fairly sheer and uneven on that first coat, so you really need to build it up to get both even coverage as well as to gain some opacity. I'm going to call this one a 2 to 3 coater depending on personal preference. I personally think it looked better in 3 coats than it did in 2. But if you work in thicker coats than I do, or perhaps have shorter nails than I do, I think you can get fairly decent even coverage in 2 coats. However, I did still find that I didn't quite get the same depth of color that I saw in the bottle on the nail until I added the 3rd coat. I do want to note, I feel like in the bottle, this looks a lot more purple toned than it does on the nail. On the nail, it has a lot more of that reddy wine kind of coloring. This polish reminded me very much of Knees Lacquer's The Crown, which came out 3 years ago, I believe. I will have side-by-sides coming up in a moment. The shimmer in here is absolutely beautiful. You get a very strong gold on the nail, and then also at more extreme angles, you'll see more of that green and like a hint of blue. This is one of those colors that I often don't really think of as a very me color, but once I get it on my nails, I fall absolutely in love and question why don't I wear colors like this more often. That is Queen of Rot in 3 coats plus glossy top coat. I had very slight nail line at the very tips of my nails, super easy removal, and I did not personally experience any staining. Here is a super quick comparison comparison of Queen of Rot versus the Crown. These are definitely similar polishes, but I wouldn't call them straight dupes either. The shimmer seems to be a bit more intense in the Crown, and I don't consider these dupes at all because the shimmer and I think the base colors are slightly different as well. However, I do think if you missed out on the Crown and you don't want to pay the wackadoodle prices that is the secondhand market on indie nail polish, I think Queen of Rot might be a good consolation prize if you missed out on the Crown. And now we have Lost Grace, which Bee's Knees describes as a sheer grape purple base with a strong gold to green to blue microflake shimmer. The brand does warn that this polish may dry with some texture, so they do recommend using a glitter top coat or 2 layers of the brand's quick dry top coat. I would add to that by saying this doesn't dry down textured like say a glitter polish would. I say it dries down more like a flaky texture would. For my full-hand swatches, I used 1 coat of top coat. I did not personally notice that much texture, honestly. However, I had this on for maybe 30 minutes. Formula on this one was fantastic. As the brand said, this is a fairly sheer polish, so you definitely want to build this one up. While I did like how this looked on me in 3 coats, I was slightly bummed that the same depth of color that you see in the bottle doesn't really translate to the nails. There's for sure enough pigmentation in the base color that you can in fact see that you have purple on your nails, but it leans very like purpley pink kind of. The microflakes in this polish are absolutely gorgeous, and I say that as someone who recently came to the conclusion that they don't in fact like microflakes. I think the very strong gold color shift in the microflake shimmer is largely what got me to like it and not be like, ugh, at the texture. Removal is not going to be the most difficult thing ever. I still would not recommend scrubbing this one off just because like that's going to be so messy. Don't do that. In this shot here, this was taken in my nail room in very indirect lighting, like my curtains were closed, and the polish looks almost opaque because the shimmer is just coming off so strong because there's not direct light hitting it, but this is just going to be a fairly sheer one. And now we have Obnoxious Trumpet Sounds. Bee's Knees described this one as a new gold lion cousin. It is described as being a pale gray base with a gold to green shifting shimmer and a ton of holographic flakes. When I initially read the description of this one being a gold lion cousin, I was just kind of like,
I want to know where to go. I want to go. Give me the gold.
The lies! The lies!
I had a lot of feelings on calling this a gold lion sibling when it was clearly not gold. It wasn't until I started building this one up and I was like, oh wait, the shimmer. The shimmer is the gold, you dummy. So I really apologize to Sarah from Bee's Knees because I was ready to drop this meme in here when I saw this one's described as gold. All that said, this had a fantastic formula. I did find that on the nail, you don't really see a ton of the gray. I feel like the colors that I was seeing was from the shimmer as well as the holographic flakies. I wasn't really seeing that much of a base color, and I'm not mad at that at all. I really love how strong the shimmer is in here, and I absolutely love the holographic flakies. You don't really have a ton of a pigmented base color with this one. I chose to build it up in 3 coats to try to cover up some of my nail line. That didn't really work. I still had very obvious visible nail line in 3 coats, but I'm not mad at it. This is definitely the kind of visible nail line that I wear myself. Nothing in here is going to dry down textured or be overly difficult to remove. However, because of the flakies in the shimmer, this is going to be messy enough that I would still recommend the soak off method. The final polish in the collection is called Placidu-suuux. The brand describes this one as a sandy tan lion cousin with a pink to gold shimmer and a ton of holographic flakes. Again, we have a fantastic formula. All of the components spread out very evenly and easily, and I had 0 application issues. While this isn't really a base color that I thought I cared for very much, there's just something about it paired with the shimmer and the holographic that I absolutely loved. Once again, I'm here thinking like, oh, this would be really good as a base for some fall nail art. This is for sure another one of those polishes that you definitely need to build up. I personally think it's probably going to be a solid 3-coater. I think maybe if you have super short nails, you'll get passable coverage in 2 coats, but if you want the color that you see in the bottle on the nail, I would recommend going in for 3 coats. I really appreciate the brand describing this one as a sandy tan because when I was swatching it, I was having the hardest time trying to pinpoint what kind of tan I thought it was. My full-hand swatches show Placidu-suuux in 3 coats plus glossy top coat. Once again, super easy removal. I had no issues with staining, and I still recommend the soak off method because this is just gonna be so messy. Okie dokie, so final thought. Can we get a drink? How cute is this cup? It's been so incredibly hot here that I've basically just been walking around the house with these big old tumblers all the time trying to stay hydrated. And I think what makes this extra cool is I got this from Walmart recently and it was only like $6. As far as the polishes themselves, I was really happy with the variety of polishes we got. I am particularly happy that this collection has a whole variety of finishes as well. I feel like those are always my favorite collections from the brand. I think one of the bigger surprises from this collection for me personally was the the holographic magnetic polish Crab is Bugs. I feel like ever since we first were getting those holographic magnetic polishes a couple of years ago, I haven't really seen too many brands do them very often. So whenever I see them, I'm always like, ooh, let me see. Especially now since I'm now in my magnetic polish phase of my nail polish cycle. Like, I don't know. I like magnetics now. Another standout for me was Dancing Queens. A couple of y'all probably remember, I wasn't really the biggest fan of Menorah. I don't really recall specifically what it was about that I wasn't liking. I'm suddenly wondering now if maybe the pigment specs I just thought looked ugly. Because I actually like Dancing Queens on me this go around. I'd probably say that the Lion Cousins were probably my favorite polishes from the release, which I feel like is kind of funny because like I always feel kind of just like, oh wow, yet another lion sibling, yet another lion cousin. Yet every single time I consistently really like them a lot, and I feel like when I'm shopping the Bee's Knees site, I'm often picking up the polishes that are described as lion siblings and cousins. So clearly I like the finish a lot. So I don't know why I'm always like,
oh shit. Here we go again.
So I think my top picks from this release are going to be Elden Beast, Obnoxious Trumpet Sounds, and Dancing Queen gets an honorable mention because I honestly did not expect that I was going to like that one since I was so ambivalent about Menorah, and I don't know why I like Dancing Queen so much. I don't know. Maybe I was in a mood when I swatched Menorah. Who knows at this point? As always, I would love to hear from you all what your top picks are from this release, all your thoughts and feelings on it. As far as sale information goes, the collection launches Friday, July 19th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the Knees Lacquer website, as well as their international stockist pages. There is a soft cap of 1,000 bottles per polish, and by that means that there is 1,000 bottles available for each polish initially, but if anything sells out, there will be a new pre-order window listed, so don't feel like you have to run and get every single thing right away. Each polish is priced between $14 and $14.50, and Knees Lacquer has a 15 ml bottle and a beautiful paddle brush. There won't be a special bundle listing available for this release since the entire website is 15% off. And again, there is also a gift with purchase called Poison Mist. I'll share my swatches of that after I finish the sale information. I don't want to spoil anyone, just in case anyone wants that to be a surprise to them. As I mentioned earlier, we also will have some overpours available of the Daughters of the Moon Goddess as well as the Hurricane Wars mystery bags. I have swatch and reviews of those polishes already up on the channel. I'll have them linked in the description box as well as my blog post for those. Okay, if you do not want to be spoiled on the gift with purchase polish, feel free to exit out now, but before you leave, don't forget to like the video, comment, and subscribe if you haven't yet already. I appreciate you joining me for today's video. For those of you who want to be spoiled by the upcoming gift with purchase. So the polish name is Poison Mist, and the brand describes it as a sheer olive green with a glowy blue to purple shimmer. I don't know what happened to my live swatch footage of this polish, so unfortunately all I can show you is my full-in swatches. This is a very sheer polish. So my photos show it in 3 coats and I'm not wearing any kind of blurring bases. Fun fact about Poison Mist, originally this was going to be part of the June collection, but Sarah ended up tweaking the June collection, so the June collection has been split between June and July, and then we had a couple of polishes that ended up not getting released, and that's how we got this gift with purchase. Before we end today's video, I want to give a very special shout out to my channel members, Shenanigang. Just thank you guys so much for the love and support. Names of course all on the screen right now. We have a members only live stream happening this Friday. I have it linked in the members only community tab. And also, because I haven't mentioned it in a while, I also have a Discord server. So if you are a fan of the channel and you want to come hang out, you know, outside of uploads and live streams, come hang out with us over in the Discord. So just thank you all for joining me for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. So just have a wonderful week, everyone. Stay cool, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hold on, Sassy wants to say hi too. Come here. Oof! What happened? Come on. Come on, Sassy. Bye. You little goofball.
Big ass when I get high. I ain't looking at the clock, still ballin' like Brian. Yeah, I'm headed to the Bucks, then I'm ballin' like